another session and another panel discussion which is on building IT business in Japan. The IT industry is a leading industry driving the Japanese economy. Today, tremendous changes are occurring in the IT market of Japan, such as the growth of mobile communication and other new platforms. So it will be interesting to know more about building IT business in Japan. I would like to call upon stage Mr. Siddharth Deshmukh, President IJBC and founder Shimbi Labs. Ms. Ashwini Gupte, Delivery Head One Asia Fujitsu. Mr. Susrut Poddar, Chief Technology Officer. And to moderate this panel discussion, I would request Mr. Sudhir Jaiswal to come over stage, Chairman, Higher Education Research Advisory of IJBC.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Shafali. When we talk about information technology, and if you dissect in two different ways, when you think of technology, the country name flashes is Japan. When you say technology, and I'm talking technology in a broader sense here. And when we talk information technology, the name quite often flashes India. And that is largely on the software engineering side of it. So when this is the panel which talk about information technology, the business as such, the business angle of the information technology from the context of India and Japan. And I want to give one statistics, many of you must be aware of it. There are around 36,000 or 40,000 Indians in Japan, and majority of them, if you meet them, are from information technology. Majority of them. And when we talk about IT industry of India, IT giants of India, the TCS and Infosys and Wipro and HCL and Tech Mahindra, Capgemini, so on and so forth, we talk about. We think of US market and European market, L&T, Infotech, all of them are present in Japan. All of them have their offices in Japan. Of course, they have a back-end overseas development center or the development center in India. But all of them are actually present in Japan, which is not so much known to the people, but this is just a data point. Today we have three eminent panelists with us, and they have extensive experience of working in the space of information technology, covering India and Japan both. Either they are based in India, they have ventured out to Japan, got the business, happy customers, or the companies are from Japan who have an offshore development center in India. So we have three eminent people here. To start with, we have Siddharth Deshmukh. Siddharth does not need any kind of information or kind of description of his personality or his biodata, but I must talk about it. Siddharth, you may be knowing from IJBC angle, but Siddharth is a serial entrepreneur. In the year 2000, he started his first company, that too in Japan. Name was askforhost.com, which was basically a web hosting company, and with more than 5,000 customers worldwide in 2000. And in 2005, Siddharth founded Shimbi Computing. This is called Shimbi Labs, a software product engineering company, which caters to Japanese market. Changing gears, while he continues with his business pursuit, in 2011, Mr. Siddharth co-founded Indo Japan Business Council, where we're sitting now, a bilateral chamber of commerce to promote business, education, culture among two countries. And under his able leadership, which you might have observed, many of us, IJBC has reached newer heights. And he is the person solely responsible for numerous MOUs we have got between IJBC and various other Japanese organizations, including universities, not-for-profit organizations, as well business centers. He has a vast network of Indian and Japanese business leaders, and he has a profound understanding of Japanese culture. He is a mechanical engineer by education, And as we mentioned sometime before, he made his maiden visit in Japan 2000, and then the journey started. He's a voracious reader, and he speaks at various business forums. And he was a visiting faculty also, this other part of his personality, in Symbiosis International University. And he was an active member, a still active member, of NASSCOM Type Pune chapter, iSpirit and SAS Bhumi. Apart from this, he is a marathoner, and he believes that a fit mind and body is essential for a blissful life. Welcome, Siddharth. Thank you very much for being here. This is important to set the context. Now we have another eminent person, Ms. Ashwini Gupte. She is delivery head, One Asia Fujitsu, and she is part of One Asia Fujitsu currently, and his current capacity, she is the delivery head for multi-cloud services and business process services for India and Japan, Asia and Japan. As her current capacity as a delivery head, she is managing multi-million-dollar portfolio of GDCs and oversees end-to-end governance of all delivery activities, focusing on multi-cloud, RPAs, Japanese business process services, and digital transformation. She is certified in advanced Japanese language, and she is expert in telecom and networking. She has overall experience of 25 years, and she started a career in software with Fujitsu, a long career, and she has a vast experience of delivery management for large, medium, and small customer base across Japan, Europe, and India. She has been recipient of numerous individual awards as Fujitsu Quality Achievement Awards, as well as project awards, including Fujitsu President Award for Japanese BPS project. She is also she is an electrical engineer, BE, and ME, and she holds advanced diploma in Japanese as well as Japanese language, proficiency level 2. She is a voracious reader, and she likes to listen to music. Welcome, Ashwini. Thank you so much for being here. Our third panel is a person, he looks quiet, but you'll hear from him. His name is Sushrut Poddar. We'll come to know about his mental strength and aspiration pretty soon when he speaks about it. He is a CTO, and currently he's a Chief Technology Officer, CTO at Fidel Software Limited. And Fidel is India's first public listed SME and LangTech field. We'll listen from him what LangTech means. LangTech is one space where there is very few competition. He'll talk about it. He's BE in computer science and an MBA, and he has 25 years of experience in the space of IT, if you call it, information technology. He believes in execution. It's the execution which gives him strength and passion. He's a hardcore technical person, understand all the legacy system of technology to the modern system of AI. He is based in Pune, and he loves to do cycling. Thank you, Sushrut, for being here. To start and to set the context and make the people aware what we're talking about, all three of you have a, if I go one level below, a complex journey. So I start with Siddharth. I would like to hear from you in a brief way, your experience, your journey, starting from the roots and going to Japan, doing the business, being successful, that too especially in the context of products. I would like to hear your views.
Konnichiwa. So, my journey is more than complex, it is very unusual. And statutory warning, please don't follow it. It's very bad if you follow that. Because I never trained as a software engineer. I never planned Japan. And I never learned Japanese. But I'm doing business for last 20 years. In fact, I never worked as a mechanical engineer. I always work in a software. I visited Japan as a tourist, backpacker rather, unusual destination for backpacking again. And learning Japanese, no. I went to Japan and I realized I cannot survive, so I learned Japanese. Not in India or not for a business. So my Japanese is quite sometimes natural, but sometimes not so polite because I learn on the street. Usually speak when I'm excited than sober. I will not speak more. So, in the interest of a time, what I'll say that, yes, when I visited Japan, I was naturally impressed by the country, people, and food. But that is something which any tourist will also feel. But very interesting thing I found within a first few weeks only, that there is a good scope if I speak English than Japanese. Because there are many companies over there who need IT skill, but they are planning to internationalize. They are trying to go outside, and they need somebody who can speak English than Japanese and represent them or help them to communicate outside. And during this visit, I happens to meet few interesting people, and that might be my luck, that they started talking to me if I can work with them. Somehow I was crazy and I told them, I turned down their offer, and I told them, you know what, I'm not in mood right now to come on your payroll. So if I can do something beyond that, not coming on your payroll, I'm happy to work with you. And I started as a consultant there without even starting my career. Of course, they needed to sponsor my visa to change it from tourist to business visa. And the journey started. And it went on like that. Sorry. And in next 1.5 years, I realized that I'm very much engaged with Japanese, and I started enjoying working with Japan because of a detail orientation, planning, and depth of not only software, but for whom we are using that software, why we are using that software. That discussion was that more than actually coding and all, and that interests me a lot. And I say, let's do it. I was fortunate, I met many senior people in industry, and they started helping me to give references, and I started coding individually. I was still individual. During that time, I start my own company, which is people recently learned there is something called remote work. In 2000, I started my first remote company called Ask for Host from Japan, and started doing a server management and security consultancy. And the journey went on till 2005, when I got a very big break, where I got a very big project which was impossible to do, like a 2 or 3 people team, which I had in Japan. So I decided to come back to India and start my own second company, that is Shimbi Labs. And since then, we are working with Japan and doing a lot of product engineering. We, since beginning, consciously decided not to accept any outsourced job. That means we want to get involved in a only project which is like zero, where we are involved in a product designing and actually implementing and running it for several years. So that means we have a customer who are since 2005 even today. And that is another thing which I like about Japan, that once you are friend, you are friend for a life. And it's not a one project, it's several projects, several years, and several more references. Interestingly, till date, Shimbi Labs never have any salespeople. And that works only with Japan, usually. Unusually, usually you need some marketing people. Unusually here, it works for me only, that our engineer could only do the delivery, and they could talk to our customer and convince them for a next work. So that is my journey, and that's what I told you, don't follow this, because this is not very usual journey. And there is a lot of possibility of a failing I was just lucky. Japan happens to me, and I love Japan. Thank you.
Thanks, Siddharth. So it's unusual but quite successful, and we must keep in mind that if you do business in Japan, only two things are the center of the business: customer and product. So very less room for intermediary, very successful thing. And about language, I can add that I also worked in Japan for a long time, and I was working in a very large company, and I was the only foreigner, so to say, rather than Indian, in that company, all Japanese. And I had an interest to learn Japanese language, but all of them said that, please speak English, we want to learn English with you. And that was an unusual thing, but yes, you can do business, you can work in Japan, you can live in Japan. Of course, you must learn Japanese language, but language is not the only barrier. There are a lot of other things to learn on that. Coming back to you, Mr. Podar, your company has done amazing work, and you'd like to hear from him. Amazing in the sense, company starting from India, going to Japan, getting business, have a vision, and then Japan was the first market, get the right customers, and then acquired customers globally. But the real thing happened that they went public, which is very unusual for a company starting from India, going to Japan, then go to public. Would you like to help us to understand your journey in that space?
Hello everybody. So this is my first time being in front of the people. I'm a backstage guy, so please excuse if I make some fumbles. Talking about Fidel Softtech, yes, we started way back in 2001. Started in Japan. Sunil Kulkarni, as most of you know, he was in Japan and he started his own company there. And in 2003, we started India office operations. And since then, we were working focusedly only with Japan. So it was all Japan, Japanese market, and Japanese language that we were doing. But that is where we found that we ourselves are now have a mindset of being a Japanese company, and which is what is actually helping us when we are now expanding into other markets. So this is one thing that we learned, that how to deal with Japanese, what is the process, what it needs or what it takes to be successful in Japan. So after 20 plus years in Japan, we are still, Japan is our focus area, focus market, and most of our business still comes from Japan. Though we have been consciously trying to diversify, we now have customers from India, from across the globe. But yes, Japan is still our, what you can say is heart and head, where our heart and head lies. As most of you know, we started initially as a pure software services company, doing services in VB, PHP, .NET kind of a thing. And slowly then we understood, or rather our customers made us aware that they were in need of language help. And that's where we started entering into the language support kind of areas. Of course, again, it was Japanese and English, but then slowly it started spreading out to other languages as well. So initially, though, for the first 5, 6, 10 years, it was only Japanese language. Afterwards, we started dealing with European languages, Indian languages, and now we deal with 200 plus languages across the globe. Now, dealing with languages, it means not just translation. Of course, we do translation. We are not saying we don't do that. We do translation, but it is not just translation that we do. It is more of localization, internationalization, and globalization that we do. So it's any company, any product that wants to go into a newer market, we can help them do that. Customize their product, customize their manuals, customize their marketing strategy, and everything. So that is where this language angle comes into. So we call ourselves a LangTech company, because though we started originally as a services technology company, we are still doing that. We are added the language part of it, and now we are combining both language and technology to solve problems of the world. So that's how we are here now.
Thank you, Shashrut. And one point to be noted that Fidelsoft is the only listed company in India which is in LangTech. And there's one space which you just heard from him. Anyone want to spread out from one country to other country, because the different country will have different languages. And it's not only translation merely, there's a lot of intelligence involved in that. And he's expert in AI. They are the company which help on LangTech. I was also not fully aware of the kind of work they do it. Thank you for enlightening us. Our third panelist is Ms. Ashwani. Ashwini, we all know big IT companies in India, those who are in India, the TCS and Infosys. Fujitsu is the largest IT company in Japan, huge company, and they have the largest development center in India today. Starting Fujitsu, would like to know your journey. You have an expertise in language, understanding the culture, getting success all across continuously. The kind of culture you have seen, how you handle things, would like to enlighten the people, the success and the journey, and the pains maybe throughout the year about the Fujitsu and yourself. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much. My personal career journey started with Fujitsu itself. I learned Japanese. I did my advanced diploma and language certification, and I joined software industry, though I have electrical engineering background. And that started with partner company of Fujitsu, where I got a chance to work in Fujitsu labs, networking being my specialization, and that too became, along with my career in Fujitsu, got to work in various labs of Fujitsu in Japan. Also could interact with many engineers over there, very high officials over there, because of this technical knowledge and language, that combination. And now for last 6 years, I'm part of Fujitsu Consulting India Private Limited, that is Fujitsu. And I always say that Fujitsu gives you opportunities to learn, and not just how you can use your technical knowledge, technology, and also your language skills. Now today when we work with our parent company and headquarters, we see that communication, collaboration is very, very important. And along with Japanese language skill, understanding the business culture is very important. So now we are taking people who have worked with other regions, US, Europe, and other countries. We are hiring them in Fujitsu. We are making them aware of what Fujitsu Japan wants. And I think that's one part which is important, because those who have worked for other countries probably find it difficult to understand that mindset, how thorough Japanese people are and how they are detail-oriented. DNA, of course, quality is their DNA, and because of that, very, very minute details are looked at. We are in software where we develop products, or we write applications, or we provide IT services, where a smallest defect can become a big issue. So zero defect is the, I would say, is the process which is, or philosophy which is followed by Japanese people. And if something goes wrong, then how the root cause analysis becomes important. So going to the roots of issues and finding out the solutions, which are not just the short-term solutions, but the long-term solutions or preventive solutions. So those who have worked with Japan would appreciate this word preventive solution or preventive measure becomes very important while working with them. And Japan is also opening up, very much opening up now. Earlier we used to visit Japan very often. Now Japanese people are coming here. They are trying to understand our work culture. So we have that collaboration with them. So many of our stakeholders from Japan are coming to visit our facilities, understand how our people work, how Indian people work, how other GDC people work, and that collaboration is happening. So I think it's very exciting time for us as well as for the overall industry. And Japan, you know that they need a manpower and they have advanced technology. We have very good talent, so I think that amalgamation is required.
Thank you, Ashwini. This is quite insightful, and your long career. All three of you in different capacity in different companies have been successful in Japanese market. And coming back to the base theme of this panel discussion is building IT business in Japan. I can take liberty of saying in Japan or with Japan. So I would like to ask all three of you, of course you have a unique story, all three places. What are the biggest, because many of us would like to know about it, that now Japan is a destination. Japan is a thing which can have business opportunities, which is known to us, but let's set up an IT business, all right? We think that, we believe that India and Japan are natural partners. There is a lot of complementary situation among two countries. One is, let's say, the need for automation and supply of IT engineers from India. So in terms of building IT business in Japan, what are the kind of business challenges, be in culture or anything else you faced? Maybe highlight one or two of them. starting from Siddharth.
Yeah, that is a very interesting and important question. This answer is from my experience perspective, because what had happened to me from my story, you must have realized that nothing was planned and it started happening. That means it's organic. I learned many things through my experience and realization, and then fine tune on the way. When you don't know the language, when you don't know the country, when you don't know the people, you also don't never think about doing business. And so I never thought of doing business in Japan or with Japan, but I started doing that actually. First thing I learned is that it's really not about language. Might be some people will agree or not, but this is what, from my experience, it's more about understanding each other and understanding expectations. What you say, how do you look at one thing and how the other people pursue it and look at it. If that matches, the things can go very easily, because fundamentally we evolved from the sign languages. So you can communicate. When you go to the advanced stages, then language matters and all. But if your expectation don't match, if you don't understand each other, what somebody is asking you, what you are understanding, what you are doing, what they are expecting, then things can go wrong. And this is not only for the IT, but for any business for that matter. So I always say that if you are building business with Japan, I will first focus on culture, how people pursue the matters. And if you try to understand that, if your starting point is there, then probably the chances of success are very high. If you only know a language, there is one danger that people even can then expect, okay, you understand language, that means you understand my culture. You understand what I'm expecting. But basically what is happening is you understand only language. You just learn the language and ignore the other parts. And that's a big sign of failure. In fact, that is far more dangerous, because you already open the door and raise the expectation of people that you understand language. That means you understand the culture. So I think that is the biggest difficulty one has to overcome and focus on for any business. So when many of you are here to understand how to do business with Japan, probably that is where you have to start, to come here and start talking with people and start understanding how things work, then directly jump into the business. I promise, if it is you are doing a business with Japan, once you make a friend, they are friends for life. But that reaching there is more important than directly asking, okay, when can we start the project? It doesn't work like that.
Thanks, Siddharth. This is very insightful and is coming from decades of experience. Yes, language is important, but it's not everything. It's understanding the culture, understanding the expectations, building long-term relationship. That is the success to any relationship, be it IT business or anything, or personal relationship. Thanks, Siddharth. Ashwini, coming back to your situation, you have worked a lot. And of course, you see from different lens things today. But if you flash back and give us a sneak view, if somebody has to go back and go Japan and set up a business there or work with them, either way, what are the key challenges has to be kept in mind? What's your views?
Definitely. I think Siddharth touched upon this very important point, that understanding the culture is required and not just the language. Of course, language is a means and of communication, but essence is important, that understanding how they work. So I've been to Japan, have worked over there in various facilities of Fujitsu, at what time how they are punctual, how they come to office. Very small things become important. When we are working in the virtual environment today, our workforce works in virtual environment. They are having Microsoft Teams meeting with our customers and all. It becomes more important that how we communicate and how those barriers can be removed, and how we are punctual for the meetings, how we are going for any other work in person or virtually, it becomes important. I touched upon other factor, which is quality, because we deliver services, we deliver products. When we do that, quality becomes very important. And quality is not one day or one night thing which can be achieved immediately. It is, they believe in process quality, what we call in process quality. So your design has to be very thorough, your reviews are important, and at every phase of the software delivery, reviews are important. So it goes through design, coding, then testing. Testing is important. So I have seen that almost 30% time and effort is spent on the design, 20% time on coding. Typically in Western world, somebody will just start coding after design, but in Japan, a lot of reviews happen on the design itself, and they believe that if your design is concrete and robust, then your product or application or whatever service you are providing will be definitely good and of very good quality. So when we have large workforce, we have to make them understand how these things are important. Very small things are important when we work with them. Other aspect I would say is security. So information security, of course, it is important for all the companies worldwide, but in Japan, there's a special focus on security. So this becomes one of the important areas while working with them. And of course, bilingual skill is required while working with them. Still we find that we have to talk in Japanese language when we are having meetings, or we get some documents in Japanese where translations are required, or we have a concept of bridge engineer, so who is typically translator, interpreter, and these bridge engineers support in the meetings. So if our technical teams do not know Japanese, these bridge engineers support them, but they have to also know the terminology of the project or technology on which they are providing language support. So all these things matter. And overall, I would say that we have to keep all these points in mind while working with Japan. So rather than challenges, yes, challenges are there, but there are solutions, long-term solutions as well. So I would say it is always, for me, it's exciting and very motivating to work for Japan. And managing big deliveries now, Japan deliveries, but all these things, inculcating these is important.
Thanks, Ashwini, for looking at the challenges through the lens of finding solutions. Sushruth, coming to your company, you had a unique situation where nobody would have thought you were successful in this way. What kind of challenges your company could see, and how you found the solution?
So basically, as Siddharth said, once you are familiar with a Japanese company or you become friends with a Japanese company, then they take care of you. You don't have to do anything. So that's what happened with us. We started with them as a software development services, and then said, okay, we need help in language. So we started our language division. Then they said we need help in DTP. We started our DTP services. So they just kept on asking. We just showed the flexibility of doing those things, and now we are able to do whatever they are asking, and that is how we got our success. So it's pretty simple that once you build a trust, and once you are able to understand what their expectations are, then they take care of you. You don't have to do anything else.
Thanks, the trust building aspect. But coming back again, while it's really good to have long-term relationship, building trust, all right, understanding expectations, but sometimes people say philosophically the business of business is business. So when you're looking for a business, you need to have something to offer which nobody else is offering. Correct? Sometimes people think that way. So coming back, India and Japan, when you see this complementary situation, synergy. So if I ask all three of you one by one from your lenses, how you see the scope of synergy, one or two important from your angle between India and Japan, which can give food for thought for people to drive business. So Ashwini.
Yeah, synergies, as I said, Japan definitely very advanced technology company, I said, and they are in need of good talent. We have good talent, so that's one definitely synergy I see, that working together and expanding our businesses. I think one point I would like to highlight.
Thanks. Siddharth, how you see the synergy?
So, I think I will always try to pick up debate on this point.
Welcome.
Because you know, this is, we all know this is synergy. Then maybe one more point, they have hardware, we have software and all this thing. I understand that, you know. But then why still, if we talk about our industry, the software industry, I think what India is doing with Japan in software is a less than a peanut. So if there is so much of synergy, then it must be only in our head, probably. Because it's good to take a pride to say we are software powerhouse, but maybe Japan recently start perceiving us like that, but still is a long mile to go. So I think we need to take out that synergy from how we pursue, and we have to demonstrate, we have to market and brand it. That is very important, and then this synergy can be in reality. Of course, we are natural partner in that sense. If we say that okay, we have a software talent and they have hardware talent, but there is some to them to come together. We need something more. So, how about not talking about this, and how about first start talking only in general? How are not talking business, but start talking that how do you do? Can we come together and do some experiment? I think that is where I think we can work far better. As soon as we bring the business in between, I think many walls come. If we don't bring that, I have seen many interesting stories and successful ventures happening between India and Japan recently, that it never started as a business, but they just started talking. And it's happening. Because both sides, there is one great synergy, is that both Indian people are very friendly, Japanese people are very kind. That is the best synergy, I think. And they love to talk with each other. They have high regards for each other. Somehow, if you ask any Indian person, their views about Japan, they are very high. Somehow, if you ask any Japanese people, maybe they may not brand India at the top, but definitely they have a positive view about India. So I think that synergy is more important than finding out synergy between software and hardware.
Thanks, Siddharth. That's very important. That's the secret sauce to be found out. More than the business. Yeah.
To add to Siddharth's point, I think the main thing, as Siddharth said, the branding part is very important, because today if you go to Japan, especially small companies like us, nobody knows these companies. Everybody knows only about Infosys, TCS and Wipros. They are not aware that there are so many small independent software companies. Similarly, there are small software houses in Japan, but those houses or those small companies in Japan don't know about the small companies that are there in India. And this gap needs to be filled in. It could be one way is through branding and marketing. But if that gap can be bridged, then yes, this business can grow much more.
That's correct, because before we jump into that side, that gap which comes through the awareness, which comes through branding, has to be addressed in a more genuine and sincere way. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We talked about your own journey, which is quite complex yet successful. The challenges possibly you faced, and you have seen it through the lens of solution, and the kind of a debate we had on the synergy aspect, where a lot of groundwork to be done. Absolutely right. Thank you very much for being here and for insightful views. I don't have any question from my side. Now the floor is open to the audience. If they have question to any of them, please feel free to ask. Question answer session now.
Very nice insights, Siddharth, Ashwini and Sushrut. IT services per se do not require big capital expenditure. It's a service industry, obviously. So, you being the first time entrepreneur, first time businessman in Japan, probably did not need so much of working capital or finance. Or did you? Maybe I am assuming I should not. So, did you require lots of working capital or business finance? How did you secure that in Japan? Because typically we have the perception Japan has very low cost of funds and money is available. So, other than growing locally within Japan, did it help you if you secure finance within Japan to grow globally and leverage on that?
That's very interesting question about finance. But of course, we being a bootstrap company, maybe my views might be different. There is another way you go to venture capitalist and get the finance, or some other way to secure finance. But one thing is very sure: if you are doing business with Japan, you need to be very patient. That means by the time you really get good business and by the time you really start enjoying it, there is a struggle for survival. That is for sure. And especially if you are starting as a service company, I have no hesitation to say, don't start with Japan. That's difficult. If you have some other finance secured with you, you are doing job, doing part-time, or you have some financer, or your some revenue is coming from other market, and you want to open into the new market, that is Japan, that's good. But, okay, I will start with Japan and then grow elsewhere. As an Indian entrepreneur or as an Indian company, no, that's suicidal. I will not suggest that. Absolutely, because it takes time to build business in Japan. It takes time, lot of time, and lot of patience. And as an entrepreneur, definitely first thing is that first you survive, then everything happens. So financing service company may not be a good idea. If you have a good product, going to the venture capital, get some good capital and then focus. But then in that case, Japan is too small market for that. So I think that's my view.
No, Siddharth, you're absolutely right. And you may see most IT companies, they're sitting on a huge cash pile, because when they started, no bank funded them. Just a clue here, we'll take longer time to discuss. Most IT services companies start on their own, they don't even bank finance, and they like to have cash on them. Any other question? One gentleman has.
Yeah, hi, this is Anandya. So I wanted to know if any IT company based out of Pune, if they want to acquire any Japanese company, so how difficult it is, or what is the process?
You're saying any IT company based in Pune, if it want to acquire
and they want to acquire
in Japan, how difficult easy would be?
Yeah, and because they want to have their presence in Japan, so I think that is the easy way to enter Japanese market.
All right, you want to answer?
You are the best person for this.
So it may be longer discussion, but it has been answered in the panel discussion. If you look at acquisition to get customer, there is a very short-sightedness, because what is there in between to understand the culture of that company who had the customer. Because if you look at the balance sheet or the annual report company, that's company in Japan. For example, a large Indian company acquired a company in Japan, they had to struggle a lot, because Japanese business culture is very important. First, before you want to acquire, you must be clear you want to go in Japan. A, B, organically should we set up our own business. And the rules are same, that you must understand the consumer behavior, what they want, the soft skills, the cultural aspects, the long-term business relationship. It is valid all through. You're not able to cut through this thing just by acquiring customer, because once you land there, you find the way of doing business is totally different. For example, 1 minute. You can call a meeting in India saying that come for a meeting. I will party to that, so I was very much in that. But you cannot call a meeting in Japan without an agenda. People wait, what is the agenda? Because they want to come prepared for the meeting. And they will not get the desired outcome. So must understand the discussion we had in the panel discussion. It is relevant for both inorganic and organic business. Thank you.
Just to say quickly, but if if you really want to learn, maybe you have to understand from Chinese and Korean companies, but most of those acquisitions are hostile, not really in a good nature. So acquiring Japanese company, yes, as he mentioned, you need to have a really solid vision. Why do you want to do that? Only to capture market or get the ready customer, I think that that is not worth for your efforts.
I think now we are out of time, and I think most questions are answered. If somebody has a question, they can ask offline. All right? Stephanie,
Thank you
can close the
everyone
session.
for being a good audience and listening this whole conversation, and for your questions as well. But we are running late now, so we have to quickly wrap up this conversation here. And I would like to ask Abhishek Chaudhary to felicitate our panelists.